My name is Duff Gibson, and if there was one message I could give to every parent and coach and administrator related to youth sport, it would be this. Remember why it exists in the first place. Remember why we enroll our kids. It's not to act as a pipeline to professional and Olympic sport, although that will happen in very small numbers. It's because we want them to get those life lessons about perseverance and teamwork and sportsmanship. And we want them to lead active and healthy lives. That's why it exists. And that's important because kids drop out in huge numbers. And this is something that has been very thoroughly researched. They drop out overwhelmingly because it's too serious. It's too much about wins and losses. It's something you do for fun. It becomes too serious and kids drop out. I've actually seen one study of junior-aged hockey players. So that's older than, we talk about 70% of kids dropping out by age 13. Here's one study of junior-aged hockey players. Number one reason why you still participate, it's still fun. If you quit, number one reason why you quit, it's not fun anymore. So it's a very key aspect of this that should be top of mind. One country that I think is, really got their act together in this regard is Norway. And Norway has won the medal standings in the last two Winter Olympics in a walk. And they've also had very significant medal winning performances in the Summer Olympics. And this is a country of only 5 or 6 million people, I believe. And what's their secret? They have built a system on a foundation of fun, on a foundation of loving the competition and loving sport. They actually have something called the Children's Rights in Sport document. And the very first paragraph, in other words, priority one in this document, is talking about why kids participate, which is because they enjoy it and they enjoy the social aspect of it. And it's a parent's and coaches and managers' responsibility to protect that right and to develop it. And I look back on my upbringing, and that's exactly in line with my upbringing. And I had, both my parents, it was a very consistent message, but from my father in particular, I had a very consistent message growing up that it was just sport. There was great value in sport, and you could learn a lot about yourself, and learn those life lessons. But in terms of who won, especially, as a kid, was really insignificant. It was just sport. That was something I heard again and again. It's just sport. And I remember, competing in judo when I couldn't have been more than 8 or 9. And judo was my father's sport. I remember back then it was yellow belt against yellow belt. And I went up against this girl who was, I think, older than me, but for sure bigger and stronger, and she made very quick work of me, and I must have looked very shell-shocked walking off the mat, because to this day I remember my dad laughing and his head tilted back, and his point wasn't to make fun of me. His point was, that's just what happens in sport. You're gonna win some and you're gonna lose some, and it's really not something worth getting too upset about. As a matter of fact, that's how you do your real developing and growing, is when you challenge yourself against someone who's better than you. And keep in mind, that's a message coming from someone who was twice the national heavyweight champion in judo himself. So my father represented his country in sport as well. And yet that was his message. It's really, the outcome is not something you should worry too much about. That's part of the development. And so for every coach, for every parent, and for every administrator, because, policies that you set will affect this as well. This is something that I think is very important. Foster a love of the game. Something to think about. Thanks for listening.